Okay, so as a review, I'd like everybody to follow along with me and write these forms on the top here. So we've been talking about linear equations. Thank you. Now you can see it. Okay, we've been talking about linear equations. So we're going to write that title. And in dealing with linear equations, we started out by looking at this form, y equals mx plus b. What is the name of that form? Slope intercept form. Then you guys have been dealing with this form that's a little bit more complicated. What is the name of this form? Okay, so this one is called slope because it gives you the slope and it gives you the y-intercept. What is this form called? It gives you the point and it gives you a slope. So it's called point-slope form. Okay. And the last one is over here. It's called standard form. Standard form of a line is when the equation looks like ax plus by equals c. So as an example, it might look like this: 2x minus 5y equals 10. That's called standard form. Now, each form has some benefits and some easier tricks to use. The reason standard form is so useful is because it fits into real world applications really well. So let's look at this example and I think you'll see. It says Teresa and Juanita volunteer to take turns making signs for a football game. Teresa makes 8 signs per hour. You see how it says signs per hour? You should be thinking multiplication there. Then it says Juanita makes 6 signs per hour. Write an expression that represents the total number of signs that Teresa and Juanita make together for the football game. So if X is the number of hours Teresa is making signs, she is going to make 8X signs. So if she works for 1 hour, 8 times 1 is 8. 2 hours, she makes 16 signs, and so forth. How many signs is Juanita going to make if she works for 8Y hours? 6Y. Okay. So together, them working together, they are going to make 8X plus 6Y total signs. Okay. So now let's say that together they made 48 signs for a football game. Jaylee, you need to go to this. So what we have now is an equation in standard form. It's in standard form because the x and the y terms are on the same side. The constant is here. Okay, so this is a very traditional work situation, meaning 2 people working together to accomplish a task. This is filled with applications for the business world. They do not just go to McDonald's and say, let's put 12 people on a shift. They figure out how many work hours they need during each time of the day, and they divvy it up based on shifts and hours. It's all mathematical. Okay, so using this example, we need to figure out how many hours each person worked. So if Teresa worked for 6 hours, what's 8 times 6? 48. So Juanita wouldn't have had to work at all. So by herself, Teresa works for 6 hours. If Juanita did the job, she would have to work for 8 hours. But instead, they are working together. Okay, so then we go down to here, and we want to learn how do you graph something when it's in standard form. So in Mathio, when it gives you the equation in standard form, you always want to choose the to-intercept method. I'm going to say that again. When the equation is given in standard form, you always want to choose the to-intercept method. Another name for this method, I call it the cover-up method. And I think you'll see why in just a minute. So when something is in standard form, if we want to find the two intercepts, that means where does it hit the y-axis at and where does it hit the x-axis at? It hits the y-axis when x is 0. Okay, so we're going to put 0 up here in place of x. What is 3 times 0?
0.
So watch what happens. We cover it up. That 3x is out of the equation because we've just substituted 0 up here. So now we solve this for y. 5 times what is 30? And we just found the y-intercept. So let's go over here and graph it. So the second intercept is the x-intercept, and that is when we put y equals 0. So when y is 0, what's 5 times 0? So I'm going to put my pencil here to cover this up. So we have to solve the equation 3x equals 30. 10. And we just found the other intercept. And then you can use a straight edge to connect the points, and you have graphed your line. That is how easy it is to graph in standard form. It's called the cover-up method. Okay, so let's go back to this problem right here. Can you guys find both of the intercepts? So when x is 0, find what y is, and when y is 0, find what x is. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that. So do you see this ordered pair? I put 0 in x and I left a space here for the y. That's giving you a hint that we want x to be 0. So I put a 0 right here. What is 8 times 0? So I cover that up. 6 times what is 48? 8. And we just found the y-intercept. To find the x-intercept, we have to put 0 in for the y. So 6 times 0, that we cover that up. 8x equals 48. So what's x? 6. And we just found, if we were to graph this, we would go to 0, 8. We would go to 6, 0. And we would connect those. Okay?